Hi folks, I'm getting ready to start a new batch of kombucha, and I thought I'd just show you how I do that. For those of you who don't know what kombucha is, it is a fermented drink, not alcoholic, not like wine or beer. It's in the family of those fermented products that are filled with a lot of probiotics. So think of like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, that family of fermented products that really, with those probiotics, give you a really healthy gut, which then in turn can do things like lower cholesterol or really support your immune system. It's my favorite go-to drink in terms of supporting my overall digestive system. And I used to always buy it, and sometimes I still do when I run out of my homemade kombucha. And when you buy it in a store, you often can buy it in many different flavors, which is how I prefer to drink it, with the flavor. I make several batches in my home. Daniel likes his kombucha really strong, and it's almost like a vinegar when he tastes it. And although kombucha leans towards a vinegar-like taste, mine is much milder. I don't like it as strong as his. So I'm just going to show you what I do. I make my kombucha in a gallon jar, and I always place that jar on something warm. You want something around 80 degrees just to promote the right temperature for the fermentation to happen. So I have this heating pad. I think, well, this one's made specially for kombucha, but think of any kind of pad that you might have to start your seedlings on. So when I first got started making kombucha, I bought a Scoby and some starter mix from this company, actually, the Happy Herbalist, and they have really great starters. And also, along with the Scoby and a little bit of starter drink, you also need either a green tea or a black tea, because when that is mixed in with the starter, it's what promotes the overall kombucha process. So let me show you. I've got this gallon jar, and a Scoby stands for a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So SCOBY. And I have only been making one jar at a time for myself, but I'm going through it so quickly. And the wonderful thing about a Scoby is that it keeps growing. So once your Scoby is gotten to a certain size, you can take it and transfer it. Now let's see if I've got all of the Scoby, or yeah, I just want part of that. So I'm just transferring the Scoby, part of it, into a new jar. But let me show you what that looks like. You can see layers. As the Scoby keeps fermenting the liquid, it keeps growing in layers. And eventually you can just peel apart those layers. But what I notice is that my Scoby that's on the bottom sends a new Scoby to grow higher up. Now, if I never took apart that bottom Scoby, it could get pretty thick. And you can peel off about a half an inch or an inch of it just to start a new one. So we need some starter, the Scoby in the jar, and we need some of the starter. But I don't really need this much, and I want to get one more drink for myself from this before I let it start its fermentation process. So I am just going to pour myself one last drink. Because I like mine flavored, when I take the plain kombucha, I just add some of my favorite juice. For me, I love mango kombucha. This is a morning blend. It's got mango and pineapple juice, and it's all just pure juice, no added sugar. And I just add a little bit to my kombucha, and now I've got a flavored kombucha. The other flavor I really like is ginger. So once I am ready and have the kombucha fermented to the strength that I like, I put it in a separate jar without the Scoby and put it in my refrigerator. At that point, I will add some finely sliced ginger in if I want a ginger flavor. Because that'll give it time to really absorb the ginger. If it's not ginger, I just mix it with juice as I'm using it. So Like I said, it has that bit of a tangy taste, but it is so rich and so good, and I've really, really, really loved that. One of the things I wanted to say about the Scoby is you want to make sure each time you're putting out a new batch, you want to look at the Scoby and make sure there's no mold on it, and make sure it still looks nice and fresh and doesn't have a strong odor to it. And then you know it's still fresh and safe to use. So then, after you've got the Scoby in the jar, I'm just going to put half of the starter liquid in this one since I'm starting a new one. And you really don't need even this much. You could get away with 1 cup of starter, a Scoby, and then what you need to do is make up a pot of either black or green tea. And I get my tea from the Happy Herbalist, and different teas have different properties. The kind of tea that I really like getting from them has some really good properties specifically for me, since I tend to get kind of mucusy. It has the properties to like reduce the amount of mucus in your system. So that's the one I choose. And I take, because I'm doing 2 jars, I took 2 gallons of water, and I first brewed 3 good tea bags that I filled with the tea, and I brewed it in here, and I let it brew for 25 minutes. Then I took the tea bags out, and then because this is 2 gallons, I added, they say a cup of sugar. I go with 3/4 of a cup of sugar for each gallon. So this was a cup and a half of sugar, and wait till it completely dissolves. And the tea now needs to just be room temperature. It cannot be hot or you'll kill the Scoby. So that's it. Just making that brew. And then, this is heavy because it is 2 gallons, but let's see if I can transfer that okay. I just fill that up. And yeah, I spilled a little on the table. And you want to leave enough headroom so that enough oxygen can get in. And then you put a covering on it. You don't want to put anything airtight on it. It needs to have oxygen, but you don't want anything to get into it. So I just have these cute little cotton elastic coverings for glass jars. And then I just cover it. And then I'll just go place it where I keep my kombucha and put both jars on this heating pad. And in about, depending on how strong you want it, for me, about 2 weeks, and I'll have a complete new fresh batch of kombucha. Some say 7-10 days. I like it just a little bit stronger, but not as strong as Daniel's 3-week kombucha. So that's it. It's really, really simple. It's so much cheaper to make your own. This is generally about $8 or $9 in the store, just this size. And, you know, making your own, it's the cost of some loose leaf tea. You know, that's pretty inexpensive, so it's a great way to save money and at the same time promote health and my digestive tract. All right, hope you enjoyed that. Take care.